Dr. Seuss said, from there to here and here to there, funny things are everywhere. And speaking of funny things, let's look at another list of bands that you claim are complete stinkers. Well, if you cast your minds back through the fog of time, you'll remember that I solicited your opinion on what were the worst bands ever. An awful lot of you responded, and responded awfully. And there was enough material, not just to produce the first video, there's a card up there if you want to check that out, but to be able to curate another Penny Dreadful. So here's another 10 awful bands according to you, you miserable buggers. I quite like that because it exculpates me from any responsibility. It wasn't me, Your Honour, I was just playing leapfrog, so to speak. So 10 more bands that just aren't your cups of tea. Let's do this. Number 10 is Frank Zappa. I've really tried with Frank Zappa, honestly I have. I don't hate his music, but I cannot grasp any kind of feel for it. Millions of his fans can't be wrong, so I'm perplexed as to why I don't like it. I find for Frank Zappa's music I have to be in a very specific mood, and that mood is best summed up as a kind of curiosity. There's sometimes I love his lewd rock stuff, his jazz fusion, even those surreal sonic landscapes defined by sort of doo-wop vocalizations and xylophone, drawing heavily upon his interest in Varese and Stravinsky. I get why he can be a bit jarring, and he has a catalogue that, quite frankly, no pun intended, can be intimidating. But I'll not hear a word said against Frank, because he's either a genius or totally tonto, and in today's world I can respect both positions. And number 9 is The Who. The Who, never understood their appeal. I've always thought the Kinks were way better band mid-60s, and after that I find a lot of other bands more appealing. Pete Townsend and his questionable internet habits have also found it difficult for me to want to revisit them. The Who, my word, you must need your bumps feeling, I think. But no, actually, I hear you. The Who have a specific vibe described by Rolling Stone as a holocaust of sound. That was their review of The Who's live at Leeds. But it's very busy music, and amongst the tumult and clatter that they create, and the angst, let's not forget that, I think Townsend said in 1968 that we're a band with built-in hatred. And those shifting borders between chaos and noise can be a bit jarring. They're a funny band, really, that on paper perhaps shouldn't work, but somehow do, which perhaps is what makes them one of the greatest rock bands ever. The Who existed in a kind of contradiction that George Melly named a revolt into style, and they did it so well. Number 8 is Radiohead. Radiohead, Student Tribe. I have some sympathy with that view, as you well know that I've often aired my opinions on this band. But let's not forget the band produced 2 of the finest albums of the 90s, in my opinion. The Bends was just absolutely fantastic, as well as the follow-up, OK Computer. It was a lot of the stuff that came afterwards that just left me cold, to be honest with you. I've often dismissed it as a lot of over-processed cyborg farts. But I think I should give them another go, as many of you love this band, and I figure I'm in the wrong here. But like Muse, they're a band that I find it difficult to connect to. Number 7 is Metallica. Metallica, absolute poo emoji. Music overall, apart from a few songs, awful vocals, generic guitar playing, and of course abysmal drumming. Massively overrated band. I have a love-hate relationship with Metallica, and it seems even the most hardened Metallica fans seem to have a love-hate relationship with this band. And I realise I'm in the minority, but I rather like the Black Album and a lot of the stuff they did afterwards. And I like the last 2 albums they've put out, although they could do with a bit of prudential pruning, shall we say. They're kind of overlong. But I must admit, nothing comes close to that sonic revolution and thrust that were their early albums. Many feel they've gotten a bit stale. Dave Mustaine said that, what will this band do when they run out of my riffs? Ouchie. Number 6 is ACDC. ACDC just too over the top for me, plus the schoolboy outfit. ACDC were kind of a feral band back in the day in those early years. It had real personality and embody a kind of Jack the Lad swagger and a debauched booziness. But all this goes tits up, of course, when their lead singer chokes on the old Chunder cocktail. Back in Black is fantastic, but then it had to be, really. But after that, I find their albums and stuff rather patchy. An absolutely brilliant live act, but I think this tour that they're on now is a jaunt too far, with a very white-haired Angus and Brian sounding increasingly more like a dentist's drill. Number 5 is Pearl Jam. For me, it's Pearl Jam. I won't say I hate them, but I never understand the fascination with them. Vedder is an overrated singer, and I feel music-wise most of the songs are just downright boring. However, I will give them credit for standing up to Ticketmaster, and even back in the day giving up on music videos. This band's debut album was absolutely superb, in my opinion. It was certainly one of the best albums of the 1990s, and certainly one of the best grunge albums as well. But I think they kind of descended into corduroy dad rock with their vowely protestations on environmental and socio-economic issues. Probably the sort of band you'd want to avoid at the parties. They tried to purge themselves of their liberal white guilt, as well as those grunge cooties gnawing away at Eddie Vedder's nutsack, which is probably why he sings the way he does.
And now, back to VH1 Salute to Singers from the 90s. Today's installment, Why They All Needed to Turn Every Vowel into the letter A.
It used to be that you loved me, but now it's 1990, and I have to say it.
Number 4 is Queen. Not so much hatred, but I hate how overrated they are. Most people who have them in their top 5 best bands could only name only a few of their songs. A lot of people find the high camp histrionics of this band a little bit too much, with Freddie in full pomp and plumage. But I loved the music when it was heavier and lent into the fur coats and black nail varnish of the glam scene, rather than the feather dusters and cross-dressing of the 1980s. I love a lot of their 70s output, but I find a lot of their 80s stuff. I tend to pick and choose songs off different albums, and the less said about the leather-chapped thigh slapper that is Hot Space, the better. A symbol emblematic of the decline of this band is no better represented than a mustachioed Freddie and Roger Taylor, all blonde highlights and chinos, ushering in an era of uber pop queenness. Radio Gaga indeed. Number 3 is Muse. Muse overblown production. I do have some sympathy for this one, as I find this is a band I repeatedly try to like. In fact, I've got quite a few of their albums upstairs on my shelves, but I struggle to find any connection with them. And they feel like, sometimes it feels like I'm listening to the same album over and over again. I've even seen them live, and they do put on a wonderful, wonderful show. But I feel I should like them, but like Radiohead, I struggle to find any real connection with their music. Number 2 is the Grateful Dead. The Grateful Dead, the hillbilly music they play just grates on my nerves. These guys are not so much as a band, but they represent a kind of culture, I think. I mean, I love that early psychedelic stuff and that fabulous live album they put out in '69, as well as the hillbilly stuff they did in sort of '70, '71. For me, it all culminates with the Europe album in 1973, I think it was. But they're a band that are emblematic of that Bay Area scene and the counterculture. And a lot of people find the sprawling nature of their gigs a little bit hard to chow down on. In fact, Roger Daltrey said if you were on after the Grateful Dead, you just never got on the stage. But I don't think their music has aged well, and I think culturally these days they're more a brand of t-shirts than anything else. And number 1, the toppermost of the poppermost of awfulness, according to you, is the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I have so much hate, but today I'll go with the Red Hot Chili Peppers, as Anthony Kiedis' voice reminds me of spoilt milk. This band are not a great example of musical cross-pollination, with rock that doesn't rock, funk that isn't that funky, and psychedelia that's stripped of all its trippiness. And as one critic points out, it's a perfect shitstorm of plodding riffs, flightless melodies, and spiritual as dolphin meme lyrics. But I must admit, I quite like some of their stuff. I loved Californication when it came out, and I loved that double album they did, Stadium Arcadium. So I like some of their stuff. I think some of it's quite interesting, although I could do without all that posturing, cocks on socks, or socks on cocks, I should say. Even I sound like Dr. Seuss now. And they're a band that I think hasn't aged well. Probably all that Californian sun. So there you are, 10 more bands that you guys have listed as complete stinkers. If you're new to this channel, please do click like, subscribe, check that notification bell. If you enjoyed this video, please do share it. Other than that, I'll just leave you with my closing salvo, which is hope you're well, staying safe, and of course that you keep listening.